for you if you only make the room. This is a place of great power. This is a place of great power. We are children of God. We find great strength as people of prayer. This is a house built on love. This is a place filled with peace. This is a sacred space. We join our voices in glorious harmony. This is a house built on love. Put aside your heavy burdens, be at peace and enter in. Hear the quiet voice of spirit, feel the steady strength of friends. Feeling as you're on a journey and at long last you are home, where your memories surround you and you'll never be alone. This is a place of great power. We are children of God. We find great strength as a people of prayer. This is a house built on love. This is a place filled with peace. This is a sacred space. We join our voices in glorious harmony. This is a house built on love. Open up your heart to spirit, let your miracles occur. Never underestimate the power of the spoken word. Just conceive it to receive it. God has promised this to you. There is good that's waiting for you if you only make the room. This is a place of great power. This is a place of great power. We are children of God. We find great strength as a people of
Yeah. Good morning. I'm Connie Lucas. I'm a member here at Unity, and I want to welcome you to Unity of the Hill Country, where we offer a positive path for spiritual living. And now, if you would join me in prayer, please. We give thanks for this beautiful day full of possibilities. We feel God's presence and power in us and all around us. We are truly blessed. Feeling wholeness, we extend this blessing to everyone. We bless all people, regardless of what they believe or whom they love. We know that there are many paths to God, many names for God, but only one God. And God is expressing through all creation. We come together this morning to experience and express the Christ Spirit that dwells within each of us. And so it is. Amen. And if you would stand as you are able and join us in singing our welcome song, My Soul is Welcome Here.
I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just what I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just what I'm supposed to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here.
If you are joining us on Facebook for the first time from home, or even the second or 30th time, we would like to take a moment and say welcome and correct in consciousness. And please feel free to comment and introduce yourselves. This is our time to be together and share in love. Feel free to post and tweet about Unity of the Hill Country, but please silence your phone so it doesn't disturb our gathering here. Thank you. Unity is a global, inclusive, and spiritual community. We offer practical, uplifting resources to help people of all faiths apply positive spiritual principles. At Unity, we help people discover and live their spiritual purpose and potential. Only turn one page at a time. Please join me in affirming our mission and vision statements. Together to live consciously, celebrating the divine potential in all. And our statement of faith: there is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God, the good, omnipotent. It's Celebration Sunday. Every first Sunday, we take time to honor birthdays and anniversaries, answered prayer, and everything in between. And if you would like to share your joys with us, please stand as you are able and give us something to celebrate. Melaine.
Mama's 92 today.
Yay!
My sister is going home for the first time in 3 years after being in the hospital and rehab for the loss of her leg. 3 years.
Oh, 3 years. Well,
Celebrating birthday on the 30th of October.
all right. Happy birthday to you, too.
I'm celebrating. I'm selling it, actually. A birthday on October the 5th. I'm not going to tell you how
I am celebrating my 87th birthday on October the 25th.
Yay!
I also am celebrating birthday on Friday, October 28th.
Wow!
But I have a big report, and that was Sandra von Gillibrand, Reverend Sandra, who has spoken here quite a bit. Her cat took off on her just either Friday or Saturday, and it didn't have its collar on. Got spooked by some strange noises outside. So she asked us for prayer, and Carol put it out on Facebook. And sure enough, the cat came back yesterday.
Robin?
Not only am I 92 today, but my daughter has a birthday on the 13th.
Oh! Well, I'm celebrating the fact that my family came through the hurricane down in Florida. It made a hard right and went to some place that was devastated in 2004. So please let us collectively send out prayer, good thoughts. If we can donate money to somebody who's going to help them, let's do that because, and Sanibel, my husband and I spent our honeymoon on Sanibel and it's just gone. So blessings on them and hugs. So, and if you'll join us after the service, we celebrate with some stuff back there. I see nice bowls of candy. If you will join us also in celebrating and blessing all of the celebrants up here. We love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ in you. All right. Daily Word helps to keep the unity movement connected worldwide since 1924. Donna Gillespie is our Unity Word reader this morning, aren't you? Okay. I don't want to tell you what to do. All right. Thank you. Okay, let me see where we are. All right. So today's daily word is kindness. And how about we all say the affirmation together? Kindness is the language of my heart. All right. I set the intention today to give from my heart, to show compassion and kindness to everyone I meet. I begin by being kind to myself. I take time for spiritual self-care and prioritize good nutrition, relaxation, and exercise. I am gentle with myself when I come up short, filling my self-talk with words of affirmation and compassion. Being kind to myself makes being kind to others easy and natural. I am patient and understanding, and I seek harmony and accord in all my relationships. I let the small irritations go, remaining calm and pleasant. I look for ways to lighten the load of others and don't hesitate to offer a helping hand. My kindness helps create the kingdom of heaven on earth. And it's from the scripture, Matthew 25:35. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. So let's say the affirmation for today again. Kindness is the language of my heart. Thank you.
I know, Connie, we didn't plan this, but I wanted to just step up and say a couple things. One is that our new music director's on duty today, Melinda. So, yeah. And in the coming weeks, we're going to experiment with stuff, so give us some feedback. One of the things that we do at almost every Unity congregation, but not here, is just a very light music bed underneath the meditation. So Melinda's going to be, doing that today. See how it feels for you. Give us some feedback, all right? But yeah, we wanted to, I remember there was a church consultant that said, if it ain't broke, break it. Because we could use some change now and then. The other thing I'm feeling moved to mention, it was weird because I was talking to my mom, the thing that organization that's being put forth quite a bit is the American Red Cross to help with the hurricanes, you know. And my mom was saying, oh, you know, I remember September 11th, they got into all sorts of trouble for not passing through all of the money. I did public relations for the American Red Cross back in the mid-1980s. What the Red Cross does is they build this huge reserve fund so that when a hurricane hits, money is there, they go with it. And then what they do is, as people donate, they build that reserve fund again. You know, so back on, after September 11th, people were saying, well, why did you take that money and set it aside? It's like, well, we're assuming this isn't going to be the last disaster that's going to happen. So I just wanted to pass that along because I know they got pretty bad rap there back in 2002 and 2003. But so at any rate, Connie, if you'll take the baton from here. Okay.
I love us. I love us. Okay, we have a congregational song this week. Stand as you are able and join us in song. And please follow along with the words on the screen with the help of the choir.
Infinite wisdom guides my way. My path appears as bright as day. What leads me on and gives me strength. Assured I shall arrive at length. 'Tis love divine that prospers me. More than all good abundantly. With substance rich, my life is blessed, and in God's care I find sweet rest. In conscious union, Lord, with Thee, Thy blessing now is given to me. Heavenly windows open wide, my utmost needs are still supplied. And we speak.
Our unity movement started in 1889 with answered prayer, a healing of fatal illness, and we are honored to pray with you. I think I'm out of step here. Okay, please join us with, I love unity. Please join us in this month's meditation song, The Father and I Are One.
The Father and I are one. The Father and I are one. Are one, are one, are one, are one. The Father and I are one. The Mother and I are one. The Mother and I are one. Are one, are one, are one, are one. The Mother and I are one. You and I are one. You and I are one. Are one, are one, are one, are one. You and I are one.
If you haven't already, relax. As Jim brings forth the prayer box, we now see and we know that we are one with God. We relax. Feel our feet on the floor, feeling grounded as if we're growing roots. Feeling the back against the chair. Feeling our hands, my left hand, is it chilly or is it warm? And then drawing our focus to our heart. And from there to the very center of our torso. The gateway of chi. The center of the spiritual being that's having a human experience. And in unity, whenever we do a meditation or a prayer, we take a moment to pray for others, to bring to mind any individuals, any families, any situations that you'd like to pray for now. We include all of the prayers received here at Unity of the Hill Country, either through email or website or through the prayer box, which is always in the lobby and is in front of the lectern right now. Let's hold in our empathy, our love, the healing of everyone who's affected by Hurricane Ian and by the hurricane that hit the west coast of Mexico. We see and know that in each of these prayer requests, there is a divine substance, a divine potential, and a divine perfection that is in and expressing through all of these requests as wholeness, as their highest good. Let's see Unity of the Hill Country thriving in consciousness, in people, and in revenues. The God presence as Unity of the Hill Country is a divine magnet, attracting anyone who can benefit from who we are and what we are about, attracting health, prosperity, love, and joy to Unity of the Hill Country and all who are guided here. And I take a moment and I encourage you to use these words as I'm about to speak as if they were your own words. As I go through life, I have a plan. It might be just for the next few minutes. It might be for the week or the year or for the rest of my life. I acknowledge that I have plans, I have preferences. But I affirm divine order. I pray, let me express this or something better, God. I have seen in myself and in others times where I tried to force something. Can I allow things to unfold in their proper sequence, even if I hadn't thought of it that way? I release any willfulness and embrace and express willingness. I combine my willingness with my faith and allow the flow of vital energies in every area of my life. And as I prepare for 2 minutes of silence, I embrace and express the divine idea of willpower in the silence. I am grateful. As I move forward into this week, I ask myself, am I too intense with my preferences? Am I being willing or willful? Have I awakened my faith? Have I opened my mind to divine guidance? And would I rather be right or would I rather be happy? And for my ever-growing awareness of the omnipotence, omniscience, and omnipresence of God, I open my heart chakra and pour forth gratitude. I pray these things in the name and the nature and the power embodied by Jesus Christ. And I now release this prayer and know that perfect results are unfolding. And as we draw our focus back to the sanctuary, let's sing the Alleluia chant together. Well, good morning. Have you ever had a plan? You want something to happen, and yet it's not happening. And you get frustrated, and you want even more for it to happen, and it's not happening. Well, I've never experienced that in my entire life. As many of you know, Carla and I, during the 1990s, traveled all over the United States and Canada doing a prosperity seminar, teaching Unity's principles of prosperity and abundance. And so we had a chance to visit a lot of congregations. We started in Unity in 1987. We went to Unity in Chicago. And like most people, when they first come to a Unity congregation, they sit in the back row so that they can make a quick escape if they need to. And so this guy comes walking up the side aisle, and he kind of looked like Ed Asner, the actor who played Lou Grant. And he's got a sweatshirt on and keys jingling from a key ring, on his pocket. And he's up there on the platform, and I'm thinking, okay, well, this guy's going to set things up for the minister. Well, it turns out he was the minister, and he grabs the microphone, and, and I know Mike Matoyne was a classmate of Eddie's in ministerial school, so Eddie and Patty knew him well. He did pass away in 1995, but as I watched Mike, I got this deep knowing. As I've heard some Unity ministers put it, you first get this feeling like, hey, I could do that someday. And then it moves on to, I really should do that someday. And then you finally get to the point, I have to do that someday. So Carla and I given this wonderful opportunity to travel full-time for 7 years doing our seminars in all of these various Unity congregations, and we took notes. And as I mentioned when I started here in May, turns out it was in June 30 years ago that we visited, here in Kerrville. Joan McKee was, the founding minister, was still the minister here. We got a chance to meet her and Don and seminar over there in the old building over there on Lois Street. So we took notes of where we would want to be. And as the years went by, I got to that point of like, I know I need to do this. In 1996, Carla came to me in the summer of 1996 and said, I don't want to do these seminars anymore. And I'm like, oh, we can't stop. Now we've got our groove. But it was like, yeah, you're right. And at that point, we had booked 6 months out. So over the next 6 months, we looked for work there in Chicago, but we also visited the rest of the congregations into January 1997. And so here we were, July of 1996, and I decided, I'm going to get the applications for Unity Seminary. So this was right about August 1st, and you had to have your paperwork in by September 1st, I discovered. And they sent us the application, which is 36 pages, which includes writing essays, finding at least 3 ministers who will fill out a confidential reference form and let Unity know whether they think you should really be a minister or not, because you have to be a certain amount of crazy to be a Unity minister, And so I am trying so hard to get the paperwork done before September 1st. And then Carla says to me, I don't know that I want to go to seminary right now. So, I'm in meditation. And, when I get divine guidance, you get silent, you get meditation, and you open your mind and allow the guidance to come. For me, it's more intuitive. It'll bubble up as a loving, nurturing thought. And loving, nurturing thought is like, Carla's right. You're not going to go to seminary, at least not this year. And then, of course, I'm thinking, well, how will I know when it's right? And the feeling was, well, you'll know when Carla says she wants to go to the seminary. Now anybody who's married, knowing that you're putting your good in the hands of the other person. But, so I let it go, and Carla had this vision that she had been in human resources in these big accounting firms in Chicago, and she said, well, what if I take these spiritual principles into the human resources of a company? And, so she did that, and for me, I thought, yeah, I'd like to do that too, and I had been in radio and TV news, so I went back and was like the weekend producer on the news radio station, and I'd fill in whenever they needed writers or producers and that sort of a thing. So I was producing the news on the weekend. The years were going by, and finally in January 1999, Carla comes to me and says, I've been thinking, I know you want to go to ministerial school, and I think it's time that we should apply. And so, wow. And it's a long process. Okay, September 1st, you have your paperwork in. Then they notify you in January as to whether they want to interview you or not. And then you'd go in April for your oral interviews. And if you were accepted, you had to come back and start the week after the 4th of July. And back then, it was a 2-year intensive program, just 8 straight quarters through. Now we've got full accreditation, so you have to do it over 3 years. Quarters, et cetera, et cetera. But, it was a matter of like, we finally had the chance to do that, and it was like, wow, The other thing I noticed was that each ministerial class had a certain personality. There was this magic of, 30 to 40 people interacting with each other, being thrown into this crucible of spiritual growth. And as I've said at other times, the AFGO, another growth opportunity, and so what we saw afterwards, it was divine order that we were with the people we were with and graduated in 2002. And I know I'm going to be seeing some of my classmates here at the regional conference this week. So as I reflect over these last 20 years of being a minister, I think of the times when I figured out where it was that we were supposed to serve as ministers. And there was a congregation that was open 2 years ago. And I knew the prior minister there who was retiring. Like, wow, that would be a great place to be. And yet, no matter how hard I tried, they decided to go in a different direction. And this week, it really I was reminded of that because the congregation was in Fort Myers, Florida. So it's kind of like, wow. And and of course, Unity Worldwide Ministries is doing what it can to help things out. And of course, Carla and I, having been there in Tampa those years, what did I just knock over here? All right. So we're doing our best to be supportive and doing prayer work. And like I said, it's just, God bless all of the governmental organizations who are just being willing to be compassionate and help people move through the shock. So, when we have a plan and it's not unfolding the way we want to, we do have some guidance in the stories in the Bible. All of the narrative stories in the Bible have a symbolism in them. Now, it's funny because some of the stories you read them and it makes perfect sense literally. But if you dig in a little bit deeper, you see there's a symbolism on how to live a spiritual life in 2022. So there are these 6 books, and you have the literal and the symbolism. In several places, especially in the 4 Gospels, the 4 books that talk about Jesus' life, we're told that Jesus could read minds. Well, duh. But beyond that, Jesus could recognize what somebody truly needed, even though they said something else. And so I wanted to take a look at that, as Jesus representing that, God presence is within us. The Gospel of Matthew, 15th chapter, 21st verse. Jesus went to the district of the cities of Tyre and Sidon. Just then a Canaanite woman from that region came out and started shouting, "Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is tormented by a demon." But Jesus did not answer her. And Jesus' disciples came and urged him, "Send her away. She keeps shouting after us." He answered, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came and dropped to her knees before him and said, "Lord, help me." Jesus answered, "It's not fair to take the children's food and just throw it to the dogs." And she said, "Yes, Lord, but even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from the master's table." And Jesus said, "Woman, great is your faith. Let it be done for you as you wish." And her daughter was healed instantly. So like I said, taking this literally, we see a lot of people approach the Bible of like, oh, wow, isn't it wonderful that Jesus healed all of these various people? But, well, first let's take a look at the literal side, and then we'll dig a little bit deeper into the symbolism. Okay, this woman had this all-consuming goal, and that was she wanted her daughter to be healed. And anyone who's been a mother understands, the kid's sick, you want the kid to be well. It's legitimate, it's unselfish, altruistic, and the mother was ready to go to whatever length she needed to, and yet she was pestering the disciples. You can just kind of picture, just send her away, she's annoying us, sort of a thing. And of course, I've never encountered anyone like that, She's pestering the disciples and getting nowhere. And notice that Jesus first is ignoring her. She was using her willpower in an ineffective way. She was being willful. She knew what she wanted, and she was going to make absolutely sure that she got it. Consider yourself in this story. Have you ever been in that situation? You want something that's good. You certainly have a right to desire it. And yes, you can even argue it's altruistic, but hey, it just ain't happening. We know where to go, but we get carried away with a willful attitude. But then something shifts. She steps forward, drops to her knees, and says, Lord, help me. And I wish I would remember more often than not when I'm got the brown organic material hitting the rotary oscillator to just say, God help me. God show me the goodness, because I don't have a clue. And it's interesting because in the Gospel of Matthew, here's this book that was written to convince the Jews that Jesus was the Messiah. And in the previous chapter, Peter finds himself fixed and he says, Lord, help me. Just that simple prayer. Don't put the conditions on it, just help. See, so many of us, and I'm guilty of this too, we say, God help me, but I've got this strategic plan. And I've got a calendar and I've got a deadline. And I don't know if you know how to do it the right way. So let me lay it out for you. So Jesus knows all people, can read minds. Spiritual awareness represented from God deep within us knows the right thing to do. And sometimes it's to do nothing until the timing is right. His response, though, was exactly what this woman needed. He was basically saying to her, you're too willful. You're being too self-determined in achieving your goal. And when we do that, sometimes we can constrict our faith. We can constrict the flow of the vital energies that are always there and always willing to flow through us. Now, the sentence is fascinating. It is not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs. Now, I know it's become fashionable for men to call each other dogs in a sign of brotherhood. And I know it's become fashionable for women to call each other bitches in a sign of sisterhood. But I can assure you, 2,000 years ago, this was an insult. So how do you handle it when you get an insult? Why, that SOB, did you hear what he said to me? But she doesn't say that. She goes, yes, but even the dogs eat from the crumbs from the master's table. So there's a saying in New Thought circles, and that, would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? Sometimes it's good to just go with the flow. Sometimes it's good to just take another look at the situation from a different angle. One of the spiritual gifts God has given us is willpower. It's an aspect of ourselves that gives the green light when our mind finally comes to that point where a decision needs to be made. And the will says, go for it. This is the way we're going to go. Or at least this is the way we're going to proceed into the foreseeable future, and that might just be for the next 5 minutes. We daily face a list of decisions. I know my first decision, and every day is, I guess I should get up. Sometimes they can be little, and sometimes they can be life-changing events. Do we choose the actions that will lead to our highest good or not? You must be willing to decide, am I willing or willful? Am I willing or willful? A willing person chooses the action that leads not only to his or her highest good, but considers the highest good of everybody involved. It has an energy of an open hand, receptivity. A willful person tends to choose the action that is expedient rather than right, greedy rather than generous, and it's hurtful and destructive. It has the energy of a clenched fist. Willfulness also chokes off that expression of faith. Faith is this other power that we have that allows us to say yes to the divine presence. So if we're saying, hey, divine presence doesn't know how to do this, I'll just take care of it here in the physical world. And that's when we end up with a lack in these various areas of our life, health, occupation, relationships, finances, or spiritual growth. So she says, even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from the master's table. She shifted. Suddenly within her, that sense of like, oh, I'm not doing this in a healthy way. I'm not doing this in an effective way. She so impressed Jesus that he did something he very seldom does. He compliments her faith. O woman, great is your faith. Be it done unto you as you wish. There's one other place in the Gospels where Jesus praises someone, and that's a few chapters earlier in Matthew chapter 8, where he praises a centurion who wants his boy to be healed. Jesus is often said to have healed many, but he didn't do the healing. He was a catalyst, and within us is this catalyst, the spiritual awareness that's deep inside of us, and we can choose to ignore it, to be asleep to it, or awaken to it and allow it to flow. Fascinating little, we'll get to that in a minute. So yeah, let's go beyond the symbolism. Let's go to the symbolism beyond the literalism. Unity, during the 1920s, sponsored a 10-year project to come up with a metaphysical Bible dictionary. And it looks at the symbolism of all of the things in the Bible. Well, how did they know that? Well, it turns out that the Kabbalah practitioners, kept all of this information going for 2,000 years. And so it's for some reason, here again, divine order suddenly comes forward. So we've got this amazing metaphysical Bible dictionary that gives you the symbol of cities, what they mean, of individuals by name. If they're just talking about people in general, they're talking about us in general. Now, all of the characters in the Bible represent aspects of ourselves. So in this case, this woman is representing Will. Jesus represents spiritual awareness. Now, as I've said before, it's a stereotype, but any male character represents the thinking nature, any female character represents the feeling nature. And then the 12 disciples represent our 12 powers. And they are the faith, strength, wisdom, love, power, imagination, understanding, will, order, zeal, renunciation, and life. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, I've actually got a flyer out there on the sign-up table that kind of goes over these. This is something that's really kind of unique to Unity, and Charles Fillmore, one of our founders, worked on this concept for years until they finally figured it out. 12 disciples, 12 tribes of Israel, 12 astrological signs. These are all symbolic. So, told at first that you went to the cities of Tyre and Sidon. These cities were low-lying cities along the Mediterranean and were mainly fishing villages. Now, fish represent ideas, that kind of surface in our mind. And I've noticed as the years go by and I get older that it's a good idea to catch that fish right away, because otherwise it's going to swim away and I'm never going to remember what the hell it was I was just thinking about 5 minutes ago. So yeah, so that's the fish. So it's a place where we can catch an idea in maybe the lower levels of ourselves. The Canaanites, and this is what I was referring to before. The fascinating thing, especially with this Gospel of Matthew, is here it's written for the Jews to tell them that Jesus is the Messiah. But the two people he praises are a Canaanite woman and an officer from the Roman army that is occupying their land at the time. And there's another group of people, and that's the Samaritan. And this week I heard so many times people referring to a Good Samaritan. The Jews hated the Canaanites and the Samaritans. They hated the Roman occupation. And yet the person who wrote Matthew is basically subtly saying, isn't it interesting? You're being kind of hypocritical. These other three people are acting much better than you are. So Canaanites, when we look it up in the metaphysical Bible, these are people that are only into materialism. They have absolutely no spiritual awareness. Yet in this case, boom, she gets spiritual awareness. So even though the Gospel of Luke was the one that supposedly is written for Europe and all of the Gentiles, even the writer of Matthew is saying, hey, this is for everybody. You don't have to be Jewish. You can be a Canaanite. You can be a Samaritan. You could even be a Texan. So and then of course, here again, mother, daughter, emotion. There is an emotion within us that is giving forth a new generation of emotion and recognizes that there's a problem here. And I've heard this from many people in 12-step programs. It's kind of like, oh, crap, I'm doing it again. And that sense of being willing to turn to a spiritual awareness of what do I need to head this off at the pass? I want this emotion to be healthy and move forward. So to summarize, spiritual awareness comes into the lower levels of our mind, entire insight. And it's also a place we can catch a new idea. So our spiritual awareness comes upon an old emotion. This emotion is trying to raise the vibration of a new emotion. But this new emotion is unhealthy. So there are various aspects of our personality who would rather not deal with the negativity, would not want to deal with the realization. In other words, the disciples is like, get rid of her. When the emotion is confronted by the Christ consciousness, the faith is awakened. The emotion finally realizes that if it's going to move forward, it needs to surrender to that higher wisdom, that higher spiritual awareness. So it exchanges its willfulness for willingness. And the new emotion is healed, raised to a new level of consciousness. Crumbs from the master's table. Isn't it fascinating how so many of us want a banquet, or at least a full-course meal, but sometimes all we need is a few crumbs, to move forward. I'm going to show you this week's takeaways, which of course they're in your bulletin. First question to ask ourselves is, am I being too intense with my preferences? Am I being willing or willful? Have I awakened my faith? Am I open to divine guidance? And would I rather be right or would I rather be happy? This week's video shows a high school athlete who faced the decision on whether to be willing or willful.
As a state champion wrestler, Merrick Bush has very few real competitors. But the sophomore from Central Valley Academy near Utica, New York does have at least one rival, a junior from Indian River named Logan Patterson. Merrick met him on the mat earlier this month.
I practiced hard that entire week, and I wanted to beat him.
Terry Kavanaugh was the referee.
I've been in sports a long time, and I've never seen anything like it.
As expected, it was a great match. Until, with just about 30 seconds left, Logan twisted his elbow.
No, oh my God!
Up to that point, Merrick had been losing. But Logan's arm was now so badly injured, there was almost no way Merrick couldn't win. So he told his coach, I got this, and went back in to do what he says he had to do.
That's Merrick in the blue. Again, all he had to do was stand up and pin his hobbled opponent. But instead, Merrick did nothing. He just told Logan he was sorry about his arm and surrendered. Logan couldn't believe it.
He just sat there. He didn't move. I think it was goodness out of his heart. He's a great person. I know it makes me look kind of like a weakling, but
No,
that's all right.
no, it doesn't. No, he's no weakling at all. I mean, state championships come and go, but that, you can't take that away from a kid.
The crowd watched on their feet and through blurry eyes as Merrick lost the tournament but won the admiration of everyone in the gym. Most especially
Proud? Yeah.
his dad,
Yep.
Bob.
I'm very proud. It's not about winning all the time. It's about doing what's right. And he did.
More importantly, Merrick thought doing the right thing would make him look like a weakling. But he did it anyway. Now that's a powerful kid. Steve Hartman, On the Road, near Utica, New York.
Closing gospel verse, Gospel of Matthew, 15th chapter, 25th verse. She came and knelt before him and said, "Lord, help me." He answered, "It's not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." She said, "Yes, Lord, but even the dogs eat from the crumbs that fall from the master's table." And Jesus said, "Woman, great is your faith. Let it be done for you as you wish." And her daughter was healed instantly. And may you always be open to God's guidance and grace. The music team is now going to lead us in a song that I remember when it was on the charts. Try a little tenderness, or try a little kindness, I'm sorry.
Most of you will probably know this song, so you can sing along.
If you see your brother standing by the road with a heavy load from the seeds he sowed, and if you see your sister falling by the way, just stop and say, "You're gone the wrong way." You've got to try a little kindness, yes, show a little kindness. Just shine your light for everyone to see. And if you try a little kindness, then you'll overlook the blindness of narrow-minded people on their narrow-minded streets. Don't walk around the down and out. Lend a helping hand instead of doubt. And the kindness that you show every day will help someone along their way. You've got to try a little kindness, yes, show a little kindness, to shine your light for everyone to see. And if you try a little kindness, then you'll overlook the blindness of narrow-minded people on their narrow-minded streets. You've got to try a little kindness, yes, show a little kindness, to shine your light for everyone to see. And if you try a little kindness, then you'll overlook the blindness of narrow-minded people on their narrow-minded streets.
Well, thank you, Reverend Bob, and thank you, choir, and thank you, our new music director. If this is your first time at Unity, we're glad you're here, and we hope you're finding a place of like-minded people and a place to belong. We teach spiritual tools that can help you no matter what is going on in your life. Generosity is important to us, and we will donate $5 to a local charity of your choice. Just write your email on the card in our welcome packet, and we don't, did I really need that? I can't believe it. Okay. Write your email on the card in our welcome packet and leave it in our office. We don't want to put you on the spot, but raise your hand if you're here for the first time and we'll bring a welcome packet to you, or you can pick one up on the way out. Here we go. There's a nice pen in there too. We now have an opportunity to support our spiritual cooperative. If you would like to donate by credit card, you can go to our website, unityhillcountry.org, and click on the donate button. Please set up an automatic weekly or monthly contribution if you would. If you would prefer to mail us checks, then mail them to Unity of the Hill Country, 1016 Jefferson Street, Kerrville, Texas, 78028. And we thank you in advance for your generosity. And now if you would come and we will bless our offering now, and let us say our affirmation together. Love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I send it forth with my blessings and my love. We open our hearts in gratitude for these freely given gifts, and we send these gifts forward through our congregation and into our world, blessing all that it affects. Thank you. Okay, announcements. Our Power versus Force book study will meet on the first and third Mondays of the month, and guess what? It starts tomorrow at 2 p.m. A friend in the congregation has shown interest in starting a Course in Miracles study starting on the 12th of October, and this will meet on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Hal Robinson will be returning on Sunday, October 30th to follow up on his last talk he brought on relationships. This talk is how to untangle the mess we make. Today is also your last chance to see leading ladies. I'm sorry, Brad, but I'm freestyling here. Your last chance to see leading ladies at the Callow Theater. There's a matinee today at 2:30 with a reception to follow. And what's the deal, Brad, if you wouldn't mind saying?
If you've been already and you want to come again, you get 2 tickets at half price.
2 tickets at half price. Go, it's funny, you'll laugh out loud. You're going to be sorry if you miss it, and I don't get paid to say that, so go see it anyway. We have sign-up sheets in the lobby going back to the Course in Miracles. We have a sign-up sheet for that too in the lobby. Next week, Reverend Bob is on the road at Unity Regional Conference, so we'll have a lesson from a friend of the congregation here, Willie McDaniel. I don't think we're going to do downward facing dog, but we never know. We never know with Willie, so we'll see. If you would like an opportunity to serve our community here, be a Sunday host, an usher, a daily word reader, we'd appreciate you signing up for that. We also need someone to come in maybe once every 2 weeks or so to put the cards and pens and our prayer requests in the seat backs, also the tissues underneath the seats. So if anybody's interested in that, check in with the office and we'll be happy to show you where all those supplies are. We have a new volunteer schedule, and if you'll want to check in the office, if you haven't already done so, make sure that everything is the way it's supposed to be. Okay, if you would please stand and move towards the aisle and join hands, we will do our peace song and our prayer for protection. Okay, come back next week too.